Yeah. Before we jump into spooky action itself, want to tell people a little bit more about who you are?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm an engineer by my background. I studied mechanical engineering at Purdue and spent my summers doing research at NASA Goddard, doing some really interesting stellar astrophysics work. And then started Spooky Action midway through my college career. Ended up dropping out of Purdue to do this full time. And so some people listening might be like, "Why in the world is your company named Spooky Action?" And that actually harkens back to some of my prior astrophysics work, because spooky action is this really interesting quantum mechanics principle where particles can talk to each other almost as if they're tethered across space-time. It breaks a lot of the preconceived rules of how we think the universe works. And in fact, the people who won the Nobel Prize in physics this year won it for doing research into this. So uh, it's kind of an homage to the really weird parts of physics and kind of the magical ability of things, which is how we like to describe a product, that it works so well it's like magic.
Love it, love it. And I think for the people that are in the audience listening, tell me at like a high level overview, if we were in an elevator for 30 seconds, what spooky action does.
Yeah, so we build the longest flying drone systems in the world. Uh, you know, you'll see drones now you can buy at Best Buy for Christmas. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at industrial drones. These are used by you know growers, like farmers. They're used by enterprise customers. They're used by the governments um, to perform surveillance, data collection, telecommunications, a whole host of uh, you know semi-permanent infrastructure needs, right? Like if you need to film something for a long time, put a drone up. But the problem is most standard drones, even the industrial ones, don't fly for very long. They'll fly for the same amount of time your Best Buy drone flies, like maybe 40 minutes at max. And we found an entire contingent of customers that need to provide aerial coverage for much longer than that, for hours or days. And so we have a tether system. It's like plugging your laptop into a wall. We do that with a drone that's flying at multi hundred feet. We use an ultra thin wire that transmits data and power down from the drone to the ground to a ground station. And then that enables us to operate kind of as a flying mast for multiple hours at a time and provide a ton of very valuable um, data and telecommunications and a whole host of things from the air for an extended period of time.
Cool. And in the years that you've been working on this, where are you seeing the most type of traction from potential end users?
Sure. So it's really interesting the wide breadth. Kind of as we started, we realized pretty quickly that the most critical need was in disaster response and emergency management. And so some of the systems of our systems that are out in the wild are used by customers doing just absolutely incredible things in those spaces. To give you an example, in hurricane response, usually today it takes a couple of days for um, these network operators, for FEMA, for these different response groups to get cellular equipment out into the field, because usually when there's a hurricane it blows down all the cell towers. It's a complete dead zone over the area, and so there's a maybe 48 to 72-hour gap between when the hurricane has subsided or moved and when people are able to use their cell phones. And that's really terrible because there's a ton of people who are trapped under rubble, who are stuck. The first emergency responders are going in the complete dark because they can't, phone home and tell people what's going on or even communicate with each other in the field. And what we found is that if you're able to take a drone and put cellular repeaters or just full cellular systems on the drone and then tether it, we can get assets out into the field within hours of a hurricane rolling through, provide connectivity immediately, and then give people a chance to call for help with their cell phones, give first responders the ability to communicate with each other, and enable some interesting technologies where they will actually ping for cell phones in rubble sites and be like, is there somebody stuck in here? Are there any cell phones in here? And then that enables them to search wide areas really fast. So it's just one example of what people are doing in emergency management, but we found that's one of the highest impact places that we started. And then, we expanded onto industry and the ton of that kind of opens the door in a way. The most immediate need we found has been an emergency.
Got it. Got it. And are you actively working in that space right now, or are you kind of pursuing other areas of interest as well?
Sure. Uh, that's a big focus of our commercial side.
Yeah,
Um, because we like making money, we also work with the US government. Because the US government has a lot of these similar problems on a governmental scale, whether it's keeping troops safe, providing aerial overwatch over bases, or over moving convoys, which is really difficult to do with current technology. Drone systems make this a lot easier because you can just follow the
yeah,
convoy, as well as a lot of the emergency management roles that the U.S. military provides. They're facing a lot of similar challenges to industry, but kind of thanks to the innovative culture of our military, we can kind of move things a lot faster. And so that's a huge vertical for us, and lets us test out these technologies in the toughest environments on Earth, so that when we come back and work with local law enforcement or say a mining customer, we've proven this thing with special forces. It's a lot easier to go back and work with those customers as well.
yeah. And I don't want to make you talk about anything that's proprietary, but tell me some of the capabilities of the tethering system that you've created.
Yeah. So the way we operate is for the predominant, no, no, for most of the customers, they have existing drones, and they just like to extend the flight time of those drones. And these are some of the industry market leading drones. We work with pretty much every American drone manufacturer to produce their preferred tether at this point. And so what we do is we plug and play with the best, most secure, most powerful systems on the market, um, and we enable long-term flight. So we can 10x the flight time of the drone a customer already has. And not only do we do that, one of the biggest uh, challenges in operating in an environment, particularly for the military, where there are adversaries that may be trying to uh, create dead zones, prevent you from flying your aircraft. Because we have a tether, we can not only send power to the drone to enable long flight time, but also data, telemetry data down, and controls data up, which means that we are highly resilient to a lot of the types of attacks that generally take down UAV systems. And we can persist through that, which means also that uh, they have the comfort to operate these systems in environments like active U.S. tarmacs, like on airfields, in sensitive military installations, because they're pretty confident that no one's going to be able to jam it or hack the drone while it's flying. And the final thing that really makes us stand out from the other people who are providing tether systems or just any other technology that kind of purports to do this flight time extension thing. Um, we have a tether management system. We call it our magic auto spooler. And so as the drone moves around, if you didn't have something like this, the wire would just be floating all over the place, falling on the ground. It'd be terrible. We've spent years doing the R&D to get this just right. So you can fly your drone, ascend or descend as fast as you need, move around, follow a car, and our auto spooler will automatically reel in or out the just precise amount of wires. We never tug on the drone. We never drag on the ground. Uh, to the drone, it doesn't even know that it's connected to a wire, and it's just such an generational leap in that kind of technology when you compare us to other tethers, that we're finding that a lot of manufacturers and users are going with our systems versus our competitors, because you know having a system that is that powerful, both in its ability to extend flight time and operate seamlessly, has been a really really big advantage for us.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. The fact that you have this responsive system that keeps everything a lot cleaner and tighter. I think you could imagine if you got line dragging behind a convoy or something, it could be a pretty much of a disaster. Um, I guess from the perspective of business, and you alluded to making money, at its peak, when this is humming along, the way you envision it, how big of an opportunity do you see? Maybe not specific number, but maybe by however you want to parse it out, vertical, number of
Yeah.
drones that could utilize something like this, etc.
So the way we see this, a really good analog, like the old school way of doing what we're doing, is to use cellular on wheel systems. You'll sometimes see this around sporting events. They're basically trucks with giant poles in the back of them. That's how you could either put lights or cameras or telecommunications equipment. That's the pre-drone way of doing this. Um, and it's a good analog for like what the opportunity looks like for us, because any customer who's using something like that we could do it a lot better because we go higher. We're a generational leap forward in that technology. And when you look at how many of those are out there, how many tens of thousands are used every single year, we're looking at, we think, a multi-billion-dollar opportunity where if we can enable long-term surveillance for private events, if we can enable telecommunications for a whole host of folks that are doing really difficult work, whether it's in mining or government work or even local infrastructure. One example of something we've done is in Wisconsin, we've been working with local high schools to provide connectivity the same way we do it for disasters, but we do it at schools. So there's so many people out there who could benefit from having a system as dynamic as ours, providing safety, providing telecommunications, providing critical business data that we think we're going to become a really big part of the drone revolution that's happening. The move towards using drones for all these purposes, for semi-permanent infrastructure. And so we really see a huge opportunity up ahead.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I can only imagine that there's so many quote unquote unsexy use cases that this could unlock. That we always say that unsexy businesses generate a lot of money because they're kind of like the backbone of things just being status quo and working the way they need to work. So it's very cool to think about the future on that
Yeah.
front.
Sometimes
Um,
I think you'll find a lot of technologists that'll be like, "Oh, tethered drones, you can't. It's not the Ferrari of drones. You can't fly around or do all these cool things. You can't drone race." And I think that kind of alludes to what you're talking about. We're not looking at the sexy applications of like making a Hollywood movie or doing drone racing. We're looking at the really boring use cases of like inspecting bridges or providing internet for high schoolers. Those are things that a lot of the flashy drone companies aren't looking at. They're looking at the cool, the consumer adjacent things. We're looking at trying to be a little bit more like Caterpillar, right? Caterpillar makes vehicles. It's not Ferraris, but they're really important vehicles, mining vehicles, heavy industry. That's kind of, we want to be the heavy industrial drone company rather than
yeah,
the flashy sports car
yeah.
drone company.
No, that makes sense. Um, Obviously, I think there's some founders that might be listening to these episodes as well. So, any advice for first-time founders trying to take on uh, completely new, innovative ideas that you wish you knew when you first got started?
Yeah, so I am a first-time founder, and the difficult lesson that I have learned over the last few years is the amount you don't know, and you don't even know that you don't know it, is just glacial. Like, there is a huge knowledge gap that a lot of folks, particularly my age, who dropped out of school to do something like this, and that can be incredibly daunting. And the thing that helps me continue, because this has been years of development, it's the grind is real. But the thing that keeps me going is this is the best way to learn how to run a business, I think, out there. Like you can go to an MBA and like, yeah, sure, read books about how all this works, or you can go out and fall on your face at your first defense show or whatever your industry trade show is, and learn how to sell stuff in real life. Um, it is the best learning experience in the world. It's worth it for that alone. And if you're clever, you'll learn fast enough to keep up and actually grow your business. And I have been really lucky to have folks like Adam around that have tried to correct me a little bit when I do start making really novice mistakes. So that'd be the second thing is don't lose hope and keep learning and you're going to do fine. And second, surround yourself with really smart people and listen to them when they school you because that is the only way you will learn. I think that's what I wish someone had told me in the beginning because I guess and people had told me, particularly the person I'm talking to. But you don't really know it till you go through it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the the upside of working with someone like you is always easy to have, or easier, I think, to get people to pull back their passion. It's always hard to generate fake passion, and one of the things that drew me to you in the first place when a chance to work with you during G Beta was the fact that I could tell immediately how passionate you were about plugging drones into quote unquote wall outlet so they could fly forever. I think when you sat down, the first thing you said to me is, "My name is Rahul, and I make drones fly forever." And I was like, "Okay, well." appreciate the fact that you have such conviction for something that isn't truly fully fleshed out yet. So, yeah, I think surrounding yourself with good people, being open to understanding and learning, but also making sure that you still have a good filtering process because you're going to get a lot of opinions and a lot of suggestions, but not all of them are always going to be right. And I think that's the first thing I tell you anytime we talk is like, hey, look, I'm going to throw a lot at you, but take only the good stuff and leave all the bad. Um, what kinds of folks are you trying to get in touch with right now? So if someone hears this and they are or might know somebody, could make a warm intro.
Yeah. So of course we're a startup. We're always looking for great investors, angels, partners, customers, the bread and butter of it. But I think the most exciting kind of person that I love, when we can get in touch, are people who have use cases for a system like this that we may not have thought of. Because we as you alluded to, we get a lot of dumb ideas about how to use a tethered drone. Oh, you could use this to, I don't know, film my high school football game or something, where it's not really like the best use of this technology. But we know that there's a lot of these boring, unsexy industrial use cases out there that people know about that I don't know about. And unfortunately, I'm the one running the company. So if you have thoughts like that, or you're like, oh, this would be great in my business if only you made this change. That's the kind of conversation I love having. And that's the kind of people where if you know about that, love to get in touch.
Got it. Yeah, and I wanna walk back something that I said early on, which is I like to call things boring and unsexy, and I hope I'm not offending anybody that's listening to this. Obviously, that's just industry jargon on the VC side for foundational, fundamental things that people don't see in the mainstream media. So, no no ill will towards any of those people working in those sectors. We know that you keep the lights on, literally and figuratively. So, yeah. Anyway, are you currently working on anything cool that you can talk about? What kind of traction do you have lately? And if you can't announce it because of logos or whatever, uh, totally understand. I
Yeah.
know you're in a sensitive industry.
Course. We've got, I think, two things that we're really, really proud of coming up. The first is we're working with the biggest, we're one of the biggest defense companies in the United States to tether their drone platform. That's going to be the backbone of the small UAS program here in the United States, as well as in a lot of allied countries. So that opportunity we are thrilled about. It's huge, and we are just revving up for that and trying to accumulate resources and execute on that to a high level of precision. The other is also a scoop. I don't know when this is going out, but this morning, we're actually putting out our first press releases for this. We're going to do a Black Friday promo where any customer who buys a tether for the DJI M300, now this thing is the best drone you can buy right now. It's used by pretty much every law enforcement group in the country, to give you a testament of it. Anybody who buys a tether for that from us gets the drone for free. It's kind of bonkers. We've been called crazy by every industry person we've talked to this about, but we're going to do it for a couple of weeks here. The demand is kind of going through the roof, and so if you are a law enforcement adjacent customer and you think you might value from this, I think that's going to be an incredible deal. We're going to try doing this for a few weeks and see if we can give away a couple of drones. That'll be good.
Cool. No, it's a unique way of getting your product out there. I think it's smart. Um, anybody you want to shout out? Teammates, investors, whatever. Happy to always give people a little bit of time to send out a few thanks to people that helped them along the journey.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Adam for the opportunity to speak here and years of telling me when I screw up and when I'm doing things right. With a couple of other folks like that, Ian Woodward Smith, probably the best angel investor I've ever met. Carrie, who's a close second, but also very, very valuable advisors. And then Dan and Carlo, who are high school friends of mine who have stuck with me through this over the years. And As well as Scott Natras, who's also been a long-time friend. But it's incredible when you have friends who are loyal enough to you to follow you off the cliff into startup land for multiple years. So that's I think that's most of the team, and really excited. Oh, and Radhika, our social media person, who will be putting this everywhere in
Nice,
our marketing,
nice.
and who will get very mad at me if I don't call her out. But yeah, no, we've got, I am really proud to have the best team and the best group of advisors that I could hope for. And so was thanks to all of them.
Well, I don't know if it's good acting or not, but the level of energy and the passion has not faded an ounce for me, Raul, from the time that I first met you in 2018. And I think that goes a long way in this space, right? I like to think of startups as having a finite amount of gas in your tank. And the faster you draw that down is the faster you have to get to an exit or shut it down, right? And every time we talk, I can tell how excited you still are about what you're working on. The vision might have changed slightly here and there, but the overall end goal stays the same, and so that's very cool. I think for anyone listening, if you're not sure if this is something of interest, you think about how immobile infrastructure has always been in society. You have to nail something into the ground, use big concrete foundations, throw up huge metal towers. What Spooky Action is trying to do is reimagine the mobility of infrastructure, right? And so, from multiple use cases, ag tech, defense, communications, broadcasting, you name it. If there's an opportunity for you to take something that might have been remote and inaccessible, there's a possibility now using something like Spooky Action. So it's one of the main reasons why I was excited about the company in the first place. And obviously, even before idea, you can kind of tell from this episode that Raul's got a lot of, that magic of doing something cool. So for anyone listening, if you're just curious, I'd urge you to reach out to Raul. I think you'd enjoy chatting with him. Any last words?
Oh, thank you so much. You just put that our kind of business case really, really well. So, and of course, as always, I appreciate your time.
Yeah, yeah, I'm trying to do this thing now. After 20 minutes of talking to somebody, I want to try to on the fly summarize the opportunity for folks. So it's not from the word of the founder, but from myself. And it's a fun little game I want to try to get going. Is in
Sure.
20 minutes, can I succinctly wrap up what the founder's main point is? So, hey, appreciate you as always. Look forward to keeping track of how things are going. And if you are a potential customer, someone that's interested in maybe getting a new job somewhere, or an angel investor, or just a VC in general, I'd urge you to reach out. You want to at least know of Raul uh, before this pass ships you by. So appreciate you again for coming on the Founders Cut, and hope you have a good day.
Thanks so much, Adam.